Okay, well, welcome to the webinar. I think this is the 11th webinar that we've done so far in our series, and we've got plans to continue doing them for as long as people are interested, really. We've planned out a few months in advance the webinars that we're going to do. We've had great big feedback so far for these webinars, so we're really happy to keep doing them. Keep explaining more about the system, helping you use it, helping to make your businesses more efficient. So just introduce myself before we get started. As usual, I'm Daniel Jordan. I'm in charge of the education and training at Sin7. And spend a lot of my day teaching people about Sin7 and learning new things every day as well. And some of those new things that I've learned just this week, we're going to cover in this session as well. So before I get started, if you have any questions about the topic today, which is the Stocktake Master, please do type them in. Jo is also in the webinar as well. She can reply typing to you if you want to ask the questions directly to her. If you want to ask questions live, I'll be doing a Q&A session at the end as well, so you can talk to me and we can share the questions with everyone here and talk through them in that way. And then if you want to recap anything that we cover in this webinar, it's recorded and we're going to post it at vimeo.com/sin7. I'll just show you what that page looks like. So we've got all of our previous webinars here. That's a really good resource if you have any questions about the system. And if you want to revise something else, another topic, there's loads here. So that's about 11 hours worth of material there for you to learn from. Great, awesome. So yeah, go and have a look at that. So today we're going to be looking at the Stocktake Master. I think when I did my initial Stocktake video, I mentioned that there are some features that I was going to explain later. Today's the day. I'm going to go through the rest of those features of the Stocktake Master particularly. And what that means is that some of the things you may not initially understand if you've never seen the Stocktake Master before. So if you're a new customer, there are a few other webinars that you might want to look at just to fill out some of that information that I'm not going to cover today. So there is a Stocktake webinar. So that just covers the basics of doing a Stocktake. And that's going to be relevant to anyone that uses the system. Everyone's going to be doing a Stocktake at some point. So yeah, definitely take a look at the Stocktake webinar. Then branches and locations, I did that one last week. So we looked at separating the stock in your system into different branches, and then within those branches, different locations. So it's a good way of organizing your stock. So that's a great thing to look at. And then I'm going to look at doing a Stocktake using the Pick and Pack app. So that means that you can do a Stocktake using a mobile or tablet. And if you want to revise how to set up the Pick and Pack and use the other features, so dispatching products, receiving product in, the Pick and Pack webinar that my colleague Deepak did, that's a great resource to learn how to use the Pick and Pack. And as I say, yeah, all of these are available at vimeo.com/sin7. All right. So in today's session, we're looking at the Stocktake Master, and having revised this myself in the last week, it turns out it's a really powerful module. Maybe it's the kind of secret powerful module that no one really thinks about. Everyone is going to use it because everyone does a Stocktake, and there's a few features in there that make it really useful to people and can really save some administration time by using it well. So learning how to use the Pick and Pack and learning all the additional features that it has, it's going to be a really good thing to learn. So we'll be looking at filtering the Stocktake Master. There's a few filters there to filter products by. That's going to help you organize the way that you do Stocktakes. So if you want to, for instance, Stocktake a particular location or a category, there's a few different ways of filtering the products that are in the Stocktake Master. We'll look at replenishment values. So it's not technically Stocktake, but it's quite a useful feature that we've just added. It's probably the most recent feature in the system. And that's great for restocking different branches in your system and also reordering stock. There's two different ways to do it. So that's really good to delve into and explain those great new features that we've added. And then finally, as I say, I'm going to look into Stocktake using the Pick and Pack app. It's really easy to use. It just takes a little bit of explaining, and once you're started, that's going to be really valuable to you to know how to do. All right, let's dive in then. So I've got the Stocktake Master open here. So if you want to find the Stocktake Master from your system, you're going to be having a look on the left-hand side and going down to Stock and then clicking on the Stocktake Master. And you can also add it up to your top here, over here, if it's a module that you're going to be using a lot. If it's up here, it's easily referenced. So we'll click on here. It loads out the Stocktake Master. And when you enter the Stocktake Master for the first time, a message will pop up. It's not an error message. It's just asking you to select a branch, because the important thing to remember about the Stocktake Master is that it only works for one branch at a time. So you can flick between the branches, that's fine, but whenever you're using it, it's looking at the stock of one particular branch at a time. And that has some really useful features because of that. So when I first introduced the Stocktake Master in that Stocktake video, I kind of brushed over some of the filters that you can use, but they're quite handy for arranging the way that you do a stocktake, because as you go along, it may be that you don't want to stocktake all of your stock at the same time. And Sin7's a system that allows you to do partial stocktakes, and that's probably an easier way to do stocktakes as opposed to closing down. I've definitely seen stores closing for a whole day so they can do their stocktake. I guess you lose sales. It's tedious for the staff to do. So maybe a better way to do it is to look at one particular category of products, count those, and then update the stock. And you can do that on a rolling basis. And that's a better way perhaps to do stock. The first thing is the branch, and this is where you can select the branch that you're going to be looking at when you're doing when you're using the Stocktake Master. And you can quite easily switch between the two over here. Underneath this is the update mode. So there's 3 different types of update mode. So you've got the stock counts, and this is your classic Stocktake Master. You're doing a stocktake. You want the module to be in stock counts mode. There's 2 others though, and one of them I covered last week. So zones and bins is for allocating zones and bins within your branch. So locations, static locations within your branch. And as I say, I covered that in last week's webinar, that branches and locations webinar. And then replenishment values, I'm going to cover very shortly in the next section. So the type is a very useful feature as well. And I'm going to go through each of the different filters that you can use. So when you're doing your stocktake, if you have it selected to all, it's going to give you all of the products that you have in your system. And for some customers, that can be tens of thousands of products. But that's not to say that you have all of those in stock. Maybe there are some products there that you don't even sell anymore. You have no stock of them. They're just hanging around. So it could be that you don't want to export all of your products every single time you do a stocktake. You want to make that list a little bit more refined. And so these other options are great ways of refining that list to export a specific amount of data. It stops your staff having to rifle through thousands of pieces of paper. So the first one has stock on hand and transactions in the last 6 months. It's probably going to be quite a useful one for you, because it's going to show all those products that have stock on hand, so you do have stock on the shelves. But it also will show you anything that has a transaction in the last 6 months. And I guess that's good for picking up those niche products where the system may say that you don't have any on hand, but it could be that there are some on the shelves, and that's the reason why you're doing a stocktake, to pick up on those discrepancies. So by looking at those products that have stock on hand and you've actually sold in the last 6 months, that's really going to help you make sure that you don't miss out any products that you should be counting. So a bit more refined than that is just purely has stock on hand. So those are products where in the system, at least, we have a stock figure for them. Counted and not counted yet, this is going to be useful when we come to look at the Pick and Pack app, using that for stocktake. So we'll come across those later. And then adjusted, I think these are ones that have been adjusted into the system after you counted using the Pick and Pack app. So we can also filter by bin location. Now, if you remember last week, we allocated bin locations to specific products. I think I did those in Warehouse 2. Okay, over here. So you can see down here that some products I've got allocated in bin 1 and zone. That was an example zone and bin that I put in there. So if I were to type in zone over here, then it filters immediately live on screen, which is great, by that whatever you type in here. So it's showing me these two locations. Category search, that's exactly as you might expect as well. So you might want to be searching by category. We can, for instance, let's search by t-shirt. So we're filtering all of those t-shirts or t-shirt example category products that we have. Finally, we can search by individual products as well. I think that does it by code. So we can search by code. It also searches by name as well. So we can search by name or code. It's going to filter all of those. So that's a really good way of filtering the list. And what that means is when we come to export the data up here, it's only going to export the data that it's showing in this list. That's probably something quite important to remember, because sometimes I do this myself. I'll forget that I've got a filter assigned. I'm trying to find some products and I can't remember why there's none appearing. So just remember to look at these filters. Make sure you're in the right mode over here, stock counts. Make sure that type is correct as well. And then just remove any filters, and then you're going to take that back to the beginning, back to your starting point over here. So those are the filters. That's a really useful feature to have. Let's take a look at this new feature that we've got, replenishment values. So before I start, there's a few terminology that I just want to clarify. So we've got safety stock quantity. So the safety stock quantity is the minimum that you want stock of in each branch. So, and this can be at the branch level as well. So it could be that in my retail store that's in the high street, my safety stock quantity for that store is going to be higher than the safety stock quantity in an out-of-town store. And the great thing about the Stocktake Master, because it works at that branch level, we can apply safety stock quantities for each product in each branch. The second thing that we need to look at is the optimum stock quantity. And so that's the ideal stock level that you want that product to be. And likewise, that can be different for each branch. So you might want to allocate different optimum stock quantities for different branches. So once we've entered these in, and I'll show you how to do that, we're going to use some reports. And these reports have to be downloaded, and I'll show you how to download new reports into the system. And so those reports are going to be used to reorder or replenish products that are lower than the safety level. So you've got past the level that you've allocated to be safety, and then you're going to be reordering them back up to the optimum stock quantity level that you've allocated in the system. So it might make more sense if I were to show you how it works in the system. So the first thing that we need to do is within our Stocktake Master module, we're going to be changing the update mode to replenishment values. All right, replenishment values are two things, the two things we just explained, safety stock quantity and optimum stock quantity. Now you can see that over here, my rugby ball over here, I've added a optimum stock quantity of 20 and a safety stock quantity of 6. So that means when my stock on hand drops below my safety stock quantity of 6, it's going to allow me to reorder back up to my 20 optimum stock quantity. What I want to do now is just add in another safety stock and optimum stock to another product that I've got in here, my football. And you can see that the safety stock and optimum is set at 0 at the moment. And I've currently got 10 stock on hand as well. So that's an important thing to think about. So what I want to do now is delete all of this in here. And I'm going to export this data. And it could be that you want to add in a name to this as well. It makes the export a bit more usable. I'm going to copy all of this details and I'm going to open my spreadsheet. Let's just create a new book. I'm going to paste in my export from the system over here. So I've pasted it in, and this allows me to add in safety stock and optimum stock quantities. So I've got 10 stock on hand at the moment. Let's think about a situation where my optimum stock quantity is actually 20, and my safety stock, because we want this to trigger for this example, is 11. So for this particular branch, which is warehouse 2, when the stock drops below 11 footballs, I want to order back up to the quantity of 20. Once I've done that, I'm going to copy and paste it back into the system in the update over here. I'm going to click Update Replenishment. It takes that data, pushes it through into over here, and all I'm going to do is confirm those figures that I've put in there. So it's telling me that that's been successful. If you go back and look at my Stocktake Master again, as you can see, it's telling me to select the branch, which is okay. Warehouse 2 selected. I'm going to sync latest data. And as you can see, that safety stock of 11 and optimum stock quantity 20 has been added in. Oops. So what I can do is remove this filter. As you can see, for my rugby ball and my football down the bottom here, I've got my optimum and safety replenishment values. So great, I've added them in. Now what can I do with these? So we're going to be using reports to take a look at these replenishment values. I can get to reports on the left-hand side. I can click on admin and reports and then go to standard reports. And these reports, because they're new, don't appear on your reports dashboard by default. So what we need to do is go to the reports download library over here. And we're going to scroll down to the bottom and we're going to be looking for replenishment. What I find useful to do, because there's so many, is you can search for replenishment over here. You'll need to be logged in as the user that is being assigned as an administrator when you do this. So you can see here that some of the replenishment I've added in to my system. Some of them I haven't yet, so I'll show you the process of adding them. All you do, you click Insert, and then you're going to click Download Report, like so. And that's just going to add that report to the system for all your users. So there are two particular reports that we want to look at that use those replenishment, safety stock, and optimum stock quantities. And you can see them down here under my stock management menu. So I've got replenishment safety stock and reordering report. So there's replenishment and reordering. Now replenishment is simply going to be transferring stock from another branch to your branch that you want to replenish. Reordering is going to create a purchase order, so you are buying stock in to that particular branch. We'll take a look at the replenishing first of all. So let's click in that report, and first thing we're going to do is we're going to filter by branch. So I'm currently showing my warehouse 2 over here. And as you can see over here, I've got the two products that I've allocated replenishment values to. And I want to just take a look in detail at the information that it's showing me over here. So we've got the to order column over here, and this is a calculated field, and that's explaining how many I need to push through into a branch transfer. And then the safety quantity and the optimum quantity, those are the ones that we discussed when we just uploaded. And finally, the stock on hand is the amount of on-hand goods we have at the moment. So as you can see then, because I've got 10 of the football, the safety quantity is 11, so I've dropped below that safety quantity, and my optimum quantity is 20. In my to order column, I've got 10 items because I want to order 10 more to get me back up to my optimum quantity level. For the rugby ball though, it's a slightly different scenario because I have 12 stock on hand, my safety is 6, so currently my stock levels are above that safety quantity level. So I can, it's not telling me to order any stock for that, which is great because I don't want to order until I get to 6. What I can do though, if I want to anyway order some more, I can click into this report, which is a great thing about it, and I can enter in a quantity here, and this should pull through into a branch transfer when I create it. Likewise with this 10, if I actually want to order a few more, I can add or adjust this figure as well. So the last step that I need to do now is create a branch transfer. So I'm going to be transferring it from one branch to the warehouse 2, where I want to replenish the stock, and I'm going to choose main branch to do this. So I'm searching by the branch name, which is cool. Select that, and then I'm going to click this button over here, new branch transfer. It's going to pop open in a new browser window, so just to make sure your browser allows pop-ups. And as you can see over here, I'm transferring it from the branch that I've just entered. Now the last thing you need to do is select the transfer to branch over here. So I'm just going to select that back to warehouse 2. So this stock is going to go from the main branch and to warehouse 2. And as you can see, those values that I entered in, including that 4 for the rugby ball, have been pulled through into this branch transfer. If you want to know more about branch transfers, I covered creating branch transfers and how to process those in the branches and locations webinar I did last week. All right, so that's one scenario. So you want to transfer from your warehouse, say, to a location, to a branch, replenishing the stock in that branch. The other scenario might be that you want to purchase back up to those replenishment values as well. So instead of creating a branch transfer this time, we're going to create a purchase order. And that's really easy to do as well. So the same process applies. So what I'm going to do is go back to admin and reports, standard reports, and then I am going to look at the branch reordering from safety stock and optimum stock quantities. So I want to reorder this time. So as you can see, I've got it filtered by my safety stock over here. Sorry, it's filtered by my branch rather. And I'm looking at warehouse 2. I think the difference with this report though is the primary filter here is the supplier on the far left hand side. So I think you probably need to have either allocated a preferred supplier to a product, or you have bought and sold that product before. Because as you can see, my football is not appearing in this. And I suspect it's because there's no supplier assigned to it. I think the important thing about purchasing is you're always purchasing from that particular supplier that's relevant to that product. So as long as you've assigned a supplier to a product, the first thing you can do is filter by the supplier that you want to order for, and then you're going to filter by the branch. And it could be that to replenish your stock, you're going to purchase from a number of different suppliers. That's fine, but I think the important thing to do is just do one supplier at a time, because when you put it through to a purchase order, it's going to consolidate all of those products. So you want to be sure that you can order that product from that particular supplier. Now the process is exactly the same. You see the to order column over here, and we just need to enter in a number. And what that will do is create a purchase order for 12 items. What I need to do is select the supplier up here, similar to how last time we selected the branch. And then I just click on new purchase order over here, and that's going to create a purchase order based on the details for the supplier that you selected and including the number of items that you want to order for that product. So that's a really quick way of reordering on a branch level. And if you used the Smart Buyer before, the philosophy is slightly the same, but the Smart Buyer only works at a company level. So if you want to go into the branch details, you're going to need to be using the Stocktake Master. And because it's so easy, I reckon using the Stocktake Master is almost better in some respects than using that Stocktake Master, the Smart Buyer. One last thing I just want to explain about the report. So in order to create that purchase order or branch transfer, you just need to make doubly sure that you don't remove this ID column over here from the menu, because that ID helps the branch transfer or purchase order create. So you can customize this report however you like. Just make sure that ID column is there, and that allows this to order field to populate correctly. All right, so that's replenishment, a really useful function. I think a lot of people are going to find a lot of value in that. So the last thing I want to cover is the Pick and Pack app, using the Pick and Pack app to do stock takes. And what I've done here in another tab is I've got my Pick and Pack loaded. I'm going to be using Warehouse 2 as the example. So the first thing, when I'm doing a stock take, I want to make sure that I'm in the right mode, so I'm going to change it back to stock counts mode. And then when I start to do a stock take using the Pick and Pack app, I want to reset everything back to its kind of native state. So any counts that I've done using this Pick and Pack app before, I just want to reset those to make sure that I'm starting from a blank slate. The way we're going to do that is we're going to click on this side, Reset Stock Counts. And I think there may be, so you can see down here, there's some old counts in the system. I was testing it earlier to have been counted. So what I want to do here is just reset the stock counts. And it's asking me to confirm. That's fine. I want to reset those stock counts. Obviously, if you're midway through counting, you don't want to reset. That's going to delete all your information. But before you start, it's always a good idea to restart, start from a blank slate. Now, what I want to do in the Pick and Pack now is I want to sync that through. So that blank slate that I've made in the back end, I want to pull that through into my Pick and Pack module. So I'm going to click Sync over here. I also want to make sure that Stocktake has been selected. So there's a number of different modes. So orders, you're dispatching goods, purchase orders if you have any, you're receiving goods in. You want to make sure that you're in Stocktake mode for this particular app. Now I'm running the Pick and Pack in my web browser, but like I say, it will work on a mobile app through a mobile browser, and it will also work on a tablet as well. So it's mobile friendly. It will work. It will work in any sort of size browser window. So as you can see, I've got two products over here that have not been counted yet. And what I want to do is count these products in the Pick and Pack app, sync that count through to my backend, and then process the stock take as I usually would through the Stocktake Master. So counting products from the Pick and Pack app is really simple. All you're doing is within the Not Counted tab, you're going to choose the products that you have, and then you're going to be counting these products. So I've currently got 10 stock on hand, but let's assume that they've gone to my footballs and I've only counted 9. I can update 9 over here. I can also change the location while I'm there. This is going to update the location of the stock too. So I can choose over here to update the locations. For the time being, I'm just going to update the stock, and I'm going to click Update Quantity. And once I've counted a product, it moves from my Not Counted tab into a new tab that gets created called Counted. And that's going to help me distinguish between what I've got left to count and what has been counted already. The important thing here is that you're counting all the products at the same time. So if you have products in 2 different locations, it's probably a good idea to count all of those products at the same time. Otherwise, it could get confusing. If you've got multiple pickers, you can also use the Pick and Pack app, what we want to make sure is that they're not counting the same product in two different locations. That's the only situation in which you could get that confused. So make sure when you're counting one product, you count it all together. Let's count this rugby ball then. So for the football, I went over, but maybe I have got, maybe I've got more rugby balls than I was expecting. That's fine. I'm going to click Update Quantity here, and that's updating the counts too. And now I've got nothing in my Not Counted tab, so I can go ahead and count, sync this Stocktake to my Stocktake Master. All right, let's click Sync. And what's going to happen now is within my Stocktake Master, it's currently telling me that I've got no counts, but I also need to sync this with my pick and pack on this end. So I'm going to click Sync Latest Data as well. And as you can see over here, for these products, and I can filter by ball over here, I've got my counts that have come through over here, and it's also telling me the difference between what I've counted on the pick and pack app and what we actually have in the system. Probably a good thing to do to look through to make sure the differences aren't enormous. If you counted 1,000 more footballs than you thought you had, it could be that maybe you've missed a box, something like that. So you'll remember over here our reset stock counts button. If I press this now, it would clear all the data over here and we could start again. So if you get through a Stocktake and you decide you want to start again, you can just reset the stock counts. But I want to keep these stock numbers and I want to actually process these into the system. So I want to commit the Stocktake to the system. And the way I do that is using the Process Stock Counts button. I'm going to click over here. It copies the data over here, and I think it actually clicks the Process Counts button for you. So all you need to do is click that Process Counts button. And it's telling me now, after you've counted, you've got these differences. So I've got a difference of +1 for my rugby ball. So I've got more than I expected. For the football, I've got less than expected. And all it's going to do is make an adjustment for the variances between what I counted and what I have on hand. So I'm all good with these differences. They don't look too enormous, so that's good. I'm going to continue adjusting these variances. And the Stocktake Master will then create your adjustment for you. So after it's telling you that it's done, it's asking to go back to the adjustments module, which is great because it's always good to see the adjustments before you approve them. You can see over here, my Stocktake adjustment over here. I think this was the one that I just created. Click into it, and as you can see over here, I've got -1 and +1 over here. Let's save this and back to the list again. And there we are. That's the process of adjusting stock into the system. So if you're adjusting stock for the first time round, so if you're new to Sin 7, take a look at that Stocktake video that we've done, because there are some specific things that you have to do when you've done a Stocktake for the first time to do with your accounts that's worth flagging up. And I mentioned that in that previous video, or I am sure the person that's helping you with your account will be able to flag that up for you as well. All right, so I think now that I've explained those three things, what I can do is open the field to some questions. Because you all raised your hand right at the beginning, if you have your hand raised, just unraise it, and then once you have some questions, then raise your hand, and I'll assume that if you've got your hand up now, you want to ask a question. Hello?
Hello. Hello.
Hi Peter, have you got a question for me, or are you?
With the locations of stock, so the warehouses, the bins, and that sort of thing, what's the most efficient way to, if you haven't been using it previously, to actually get that initially set up?
Yeah, so if you haven't already, look at the webinar I did last week. But what you can do is, and I'll show you quickly if you like. So you'll be in the Stocktake Master. You'll choose a branch that you want to allocate locations to. And I definitely favor the static locations. And I explained the difference between those in that previous webinar. But essentially that means is you're saying that within this particular branch, this product can either be found in this place or this place. And you're kind of limited to 2 in the system. But it's a lot quicker to allocate 2 products. And that can vary from branch to branch. So you'll have 2 different locations per branch. And the way you do that is you just select the zones and bins, and then you export all your product data. It gives you a spreadsheet with 4 columns. You've got zone 1, bin 1, zone 2, bin 2. And you can just enter in the product data over there, the location data, and then you just upload it back into the system, similar to doing a stock take, and it will apply those locations to each product. And what that means is, and I didn't mention this, but I probably should have done, within the stock take in the pick and pack, if you have zones and bins applied, I think it sorts the products by the order of the zones and bins that you assign to that branch. So that means that if you're doing a stock take, you can do it in the order that the products are in your warehouse, which is pretty useful. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah, that's good. Thank you.
Awesome. No worries. My pleasure. All right, Alexei, did you have a question?
Hi, Daniel.
Hi, Daniel.
Yeah, it's okay. I just want to ask you some questions. We already used it, Stocktake by pick and pack model. We have a mobile device which can scan barcodes. So we did many stock takes and we are happy with this. But I would like to make it more easier and faster, because when we are scanning our products and it's just rolling and searching, because we have like around 5,000 different products, and the system probably don't have enough. I don't know how to say it in English. Sorry.
That's good.
It's just searching, and we sometimes when we scan product, we have to wait like a couple of seconds, maybe 10 sometimes. So it's like slow down our process.
Yeah,
so maybe
sure.
Maybe you can have in your plan something to make it like special app, which like Trade Me or like Seek, it's like outside app. It's not to using browser, so it could be faster or something.
Yeah, I
any
think
plans?
Yeah, I think there's a few parts to that question. So I think in terms of the pick and pack app, I think it is probably our first iteration of that kind of app, and I expect that over the course of this year, certainly given the investment that we've had in the company in the last few months, we've so far put of the investment that we've had about 70% of that back into the system in terms of research and development. So I think the benefits of that have largely been on the server side so far, but over the next year or so, this is when that is going to start making itself known on the front end as well. So we should be looking at the pick and pack for improvement over the next year or so. I mean, it's always difficult to tie down dates to this. In terms of having a native app, so native iPhone or native Android app to do it, I think we've kind of flirted with the idea of apps before. It's certainly something that we've looked at. I think it's all about timeliness, figuring out the right time to launch it and that sort of thing, making sure that it's important.
Yeah, because if we have app and make it easier, like easy buttons to click, easiest way to connect, and database inside before you start your stock take, so it will be faster. And sometimes people needs to make it easier, so just a couple of clicks and ready to go.
Yeah, I think there is some work to be done, right? There's some room for improvement in terms of speed and maybe just usability as well. I think we've got a good foundation, and I think it's going to be a case of working with customers then to improve that. And I've been working on a few projects that will see the light of day in the next, maybe early next year, where we're going to be engaging the community a bit more in terms of improving our products. So I think we're definitely keen to work with people, and then make the products better that work for real use cases. So I think the outlook is good for getting those in. Hopefully, in the meantime, you can survive with the pick and pack as it is, but maybe light at the end of the tunnel for you.
Yeah. Thank you, Daniel.
No worries.
I hope we will have a real good application for mobile devices soon.
Yeah, brilliant. And it's always good to get feedback as well. So thank you for that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
All right. Well, unless anyone else has a question, just pop your hand up. Okay, so it doesn't look like there's any more questions. If you do have questions, of course, you can submit them to the support team. We'll happily answer those. One of the short requests that I've got is that at the end of this webinar, you will get a survey pop up. And if you'd like to see other topics, if there are topics that I haven't covered in the previous webinars and you'd like to see in the future, we're definitely keen to do ones that you want to see. So please fill out that survey and let us know what topics you're interested in, and we will schedule those in to do. Thank you very much for coming. Apologies for those that had the bit of a lag right there at the beginning. So if you held out for it, brilliant. I really appreciate that. Thanks very much. I'll see you next time.